Hello and welcome to my Tomb Raider review. I know it's a little bit behind with all the other reviews being out by now, but I really just wanted to play as much of the game as I could and really get to grips with it and play it in as much depth, really, just to do the best review I possibly could. Also, this is the online multiplayer. I accidentally deleted my single player footage, so I do apologise for that. There's nothing that's going to spoil the game in it. For those who don't know, Tomb Raider was a series that started in 1996 and it told the story of Lara Croft, who was essentially a Tomb Raider, and it followed her, all the games followed her on her many journeys, looking for certain artifacts, but in the end the games really got stale. It was originally you were fighting creatures and human enemies, wanting a lot of tombs and dodging dangerous traps and figuring out puzzles. The game there isn't so many traps and puzzles in the newer game, but I'll get onto that in a bit. This game does follow Lara Croft again, a much younger Lara Croft, and a very different one from the one we know. They completely changed it, but that's what they do with reboots. The reason they decided to reboot it was because they didn't feel she had a personality, and I mean, some of the gameplay was a little bit stale, I must admit, even though I did enjoy the last game, which was Underworld. The story, though, basically, as I said, follows Lara Croft. This time she's on a ship with some of her friends and her like archaeological people who are in search of artifacts, and they are heading to some island in Japan, I believe it is, but Lara has an inkling that they're looking in the wrong place, and the captain kind of agrees with her and decides to take her up on it, and unfortunately their ship gets destroyed in a freak weather storm, and they're left stranded on this island, where there's this cult called the Solari who are capturing people and killing other survivors as well, on the island, and you find out more about them as the game goes on. Overall, the story I thought was really good. In some parts it wasn't as engaging as others, but I think a lot of games are like that. It sort of in the middle goes a little bit less engaging, but towards the end it's more engaging again. There wasn't a lot of plot twists. A lot of it was I felt was predictable. It wasn't entirely predictable. There's a lot of things that you sort of could see coming, I felt. The characters, some I thought were really good characters, actually. There are a few that sort of didn't stand out, but I think that's every game has that, don't they? But I think overall the characters were good, and the story was very good. And I would advise you play the game offline first, because one of the characters does spoil the game on the team he's on, so I would advise you play offline first. And the gameplay I thought was really good. While in some places it is very similar to Uncharted, it does have those set pieces where like stuff's falling down around you and you've got to run and things like that. But it does have some different elements as well, especially with this unlockable skills and customizable weapons. There is a skill where you can roll on the floor and throw dust in the enemy's eyes, which I thought was a really good idea. I don't know if it's original and what. I haven't seen it in a game in a long time, or I don't believe I've ever seen it in a game. Though I may have, I really can't remember, which I thought was a really good idea. The weapons are very basic. They're sort of World War II type weapons, and sort of weapons that have been made out of nothing. And there's lots of parts to upgrade and lots of collectibles to find as well. And there's optional teams, which can, in some ways, be a bit annoying because you're trying to do a mission, like part of the story. It's not set in separate missions, by the way. It's just like an ongoing story. But there's parts of the story where you have to get to people in a certain amount of time. Well, it's not time, but you feel like you have to get to them in a certain amount. It's like you have to get there quick, but you don't have to actually. And it'll say, oh, there's a tomb nearby, so you actually want to go and look at the tomb. So you're sort of torn. I didn't really like that, but a lot of games where there's collectibles, you will go out of your way to do things like that. So it's not a big problem. The puzzles are kind of bad, but you have to use tools to unlock bits to your next path and things like that. The animal killing seems really pointless as well. There's no health bar or anything, stamina bar, things like that. It just feels like it was a lost opportunity, really, that. to have a hunting aspect in it. It just seems really pointless to kill the animals on it for me. I mean, you do unlock trophies for doing it, but it, as I said, felt very pointless. But I think overall the gameplay is really fantastic. There's sort of lots to do. It's very open world as well. It's not entirely open world, but it is to a certain extent. The graphics and the sound are really fantastic as well. But I mean, at the moment, the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox console-wise are in their twilight. They're at their best now, aren't they? So it's pretty much, there's not much more you can do with them. So I think the sound and the graphics are absolutely fantastic. There's no complaints there. The last thing I'm going to touch on is the online. To be fair, it's not the best online, but it does have some good ideas. It has traps, like in the single player, which is a really good idea. There's like things that you can explode so that if people walk across it, you can take them out. It does reward you for not playing very well as well, which is interesting. But if it helps you get better, I think in some ways that's a good idea. In some ways I don't think it's fair that you get rewarded for playing bad. So, and there are 4 different game modes, and there's quite a few. There's lots of characters. I think it's 10 characters on each team. So I think there's characters that aren't in the story as well. So that's interesting. And there are a few characters. The majority of the characters are in the story. I like how Lara is the last unlockable character, because they did say that they wanted it to be like, oh bugger, when you go up against her, but it doesn't really feel like that. I get their intentions with that, and I think it's a good idea. But I think it is good fun to play, but I just don't see it being fun for long. The gameplay is very repetitive. There are trophies and achievements to keep you in the game, like playing it. So if you like to get platinums and all the achievements, then you will want to play it. But other than that, I can't see it lasting for long, really. But I think it is a bit of fun. I can't believe I just got a trophy. The trophy I got there is, I think, for surviving explosions. You would have just seen that I died from an explosion and got the trophy. So, yeah, that's kind of strange, but oh well. But overall, yeah, fantastic game. If you like Tomb Raider 4 Uncharted, you really will like this. I would personally give it a 9 out of 10 because I do feel there are things lacking, but I think overall it's a really fantastic game. So I'd just like to thank everybody for watching. If you want to ask me any questions about the game, do feel free, and I will try my best to answer them.